Destiny can be glorious. It could also be cruel, cold, and heartless. Dak Prescott is a 27-year-old quarterback having the best statistical season of his life. But, as we know, one wrong step and it could all come crashing down. Dak was actually named after a bull on a cartoon called, and you can't make this stuff up, Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa. The strongest bull, of course, was this blue one named Dakota Dude. So Dak's parents decided this was a suitable middle name for Rain Dakota Prescott, aka Dak. Basically a born leader, Dak Prescott, despite not being the most talented quarterback to play the position, has worked his way from a 4th round pick to the top of the NFL. But on the verge of a huge contract, he just suffered a horrific injury. Hopefully, he can get back to full strength and return on the same level that he was at when he left. I think there's a pretty good chance Dak plays another 5 to 10 years in the league, but I think this injury kind of marks a midway point, sort of a crossroads in Dak's career. I know sometimes people give me crap for doing players whose careers aren't completely over or aren't forgotten about, but yo, this just happened, is at the top of my mind, and I just kind of wanted to talk about Dak's journey, so here we are. So today we go back and visit his past and bring it all full circle up until that fateful moment that ended his 2020 season. This is what happened to Dak Prescott, part 1. Get well soon, bro. Cue the Wayne.
Yeah, I'm no quitter, 'cause I'ma go get her.
One of the most important traits for a leader is having the ability to communicate well. And when Dak was just a kid, according to one of his cousins, dude could talk the horns off a billy goat. Now check it out, I'm from Mississippi, one of the countryest places you gonna find on the map. But even I have never heard this saying before. This is a wild saying. Talk the horns off a billy goat, man. Wow. Dak grew up in a small town in Louisiana as the youngest of 3 boys. His parents split up when he was still young, so it brought him closer to his brothers and especially his mom. He actually got interested in football watching his older brothers play. Jace and Tad were big boys too. So big, in fact, they played on the offensive and defensive line. And Tad actually had a 6-sack game one time. But even when Dak was in middle school, the high school coaches was already excited about getting dude in their program. Dude just had a way about him, a certain energy that he carried himself with when he walked in a room. And athletically, dude was a beast. Despite that, Dak didn't actually start at quarterback until his junior season in high school. But it only took him 1 year to put the whole damn team on his back. When he was a senior, he threw for 2,900 yards, 39 touchdowns, while also rushing for just under 1,000 more with another 17 scores on the ground. So some quick math for you, that is a total of about 3,800 yards and 56 ridiculous touchdowns. In his final regular season high school game, Dak's team needed that one win to complete their first ever undefeated season. Couple of problems though. Problem number 1, the team they were facing was also undefeated. Yeah, go figure. And problem number 2, Dak had actually torn a ligament in his knee, and therefore the typically dual threat quarterback, he couldn't run. What ended up happening was Dak just said to hell with it. Dude stood in the pocket and threw for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns, leading his team to a 6-point victory, and with that, their first ever undefeated season. Dak being a Louisiana kid, of course, LSU came knocking. But he ultimately decided to play his college ball at Mississippi State. Now there were rumors that LSU wanted him to play a different position and that's why he didn't go. But Dak's high school coach really put those rumors to rest, saying that no, they indeed recruited him to play quarterback. He just decided he liked Mississippi State better. When you see Dak today, dude exemplifies leadership. He's one of those few athletes you can look at and say, you know what? I want to strive to lead on the level of this man. But the thing I want to note here is that we all fall hella short of perfection. Dak, of course, no different. The current face of the Dallas Cowboys, the most recognizable brand in all of football, was a big time mama's boy and was super homesick when he first went to Mississippi State. He missed his mom dearly and he struggled with being away from her. He had actually still slept in the same room with his mom like all the way through middle school. But with all of that said, he knew he had to grow into a man, so he stood up straight, remembered the lesson she taught him, and then walked boldly forward into what would become his destiny. His new coaches and teammates were impressed by his work ethic and winning attitude from day one. After a redshirt year in 2011 and a small role in 2012, Dak finally got his first true opportunity to shine in 2013 as a redshirt sophomore. He was having a solid season, but he ended up having to leave midway through it in order to go back home and take care of his mom, who had been diagnosed with colon cancer. He went from scoring touchdowns to having to help his mom with simple tasks like standing up or just walking to the restroom. I can't imagine what this would do to your spirit, man. It's gotta be really tough seeing your mom in that state, but Dak was happy to be there for her until his older brother Jace came back home to basically take his spot, which allowed Dak to go back to school and finish out his season. Dak's mom ended up passing away soon after, but the young man she raised continues to be a damn good example in class and maturity and how to carry yourself as a grown man. So a huge salute to Miss Peggy Prescott for a job well done. Dak's junior season is when he took his biggest step as a college quarterback. He threw for 3,500 yards and nearly tripled his touchdown passes with 27 of them. He still ran for 986 yards on the ground and another 14 rushing touchdowns, leading Mississippi State to its first ever #1 ranking in program history. He broke 10 school records that year and was named a finalist for all the major quarterback awards. He finished 8th in the Heisman voting and had leveled up in a major way. Now, prior to Dak's senior season, which would end up being his best, he actually ran into a little bit of trouble at spring break in Panama City. Dak and a couple of his MSU teammates ended up in an altercation with a group of guys. Though it's hard to say exactly what started the fight, just spring break, drinks, girls, and ignorance. You feel what I'm saying? Like, that's enough. Like, that's all it takes. Dak, being a big guy, of course, ends up getting jumped. He got hit over the head with a glass bottle and also suffered some nasty cuts, but ultimately it wouldn't end up being too big of a deal. Just a spring break fight. Everybody was fine, and the guys who did this actually snitched on themselves online, which is like a weird new phenomenon that happens these days, and they like posted a picture with all of them posing and bragging about the assault. It was not smart. Dak not only recovered from this, but ended up having the best season of his college career. He threw 2 more touchdowns than he had his junior season and way less interceptions. 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, and only 5 picks, plus 10 more TDs on the ground. Yeah, dude went off. He came to Mississippi State with tons of promise and potential, and he left that thing with 38 school records and the 3rd most total yards in SEC history. In 2013, a kid named after a character on the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa was drafted by the Wild West Cowboys of Dallas, Texas, in the 4th round as a developmental quarterback to sit behind Tony Romo and learn. After a brief stint with the jersey number 10, Dak actually switched his jersey number to 4 to honor his mom, whose birthday was September 4th. Now check it out. This man was not supposed to touch the field, okay? He was 3rd on the depth chart, and when backup Kellen Moore, his offensive coordinator now, broke his right tibia, that ended up getting an opportunity to compete for the backup spot, okay? Now the word coming out of Cowboys camp is that Dak was actually getting outplayed by a dual threat quarterback who now plays free safety. His name is Jamil Showers. The word was Jamil looked better in practice. But one thing we know about Dak, dude, a gamer. So when he ended up getting a nod to start the first preseason game, that was kind of all she wrote for my dog Jamil. Through 3 preseason games, dude threw 454 yards and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions. His demeanor and poise were once again on full display, and it impressed damn near everybody. You can guarantee it was cats on Twitter hating, saying, "Oh, it's just the preseason." Anyway, he was able to edge out Jamil Showers, and he got that backup role. But then, in game 3 of the preseason, Tony Romo, longtime Dallas Cowboys quarterback, goes down with a vertebrae fracture, okay? Obviously, extremely serious injury, and boom, just like that, the 4th round pick out of Mississippi State is now the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and that is a huge undertaking. Like, you can't understate that, you know what I'm saying? A week 1 loss with no passing or rushing touchdowns seemed to say that maybe Dak wasn't quite ready for this. But by week 2, the team got hot, and Dak helped lead them to an 11-game win streak, and dude was a star overnight. The pressure placed on him to stand to become the face of the biggest football franchise in the world as only a 4th round rookie it had to be suffocating. This wasn't a rebuilding team. This wasn't a small market where they was gonna be patient. Nah, they was trying to win right now, okay? But in true Dak Prescott fashion, dude stayed calm under pressure, was cool, and everything about the dude just bred confidence without the subsequent arrogance that you kind of get from some people in this position. It never felt like he had the full support of the Cowboys, but he navigated that thing really as well as a person could. He just put one foot in front of the other, and even though he was clearly figuring it all out as he went, dude had the confidence and demeanor of a 10-year vet. And that's what I've always liked about Dak Prescott, and I feel like it's his best trait as a quarterback. He finished his first season with 3,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions while completing 68% of his passes. He didn't take a lot of chances, didn't try to make a lot of plays outside of his skill set, and since the 2016 Cowboys were an incredibly talented team already, he just did what he had to do to stack up the W. He ended up winning Rookie of the Year and did something many vets have still never done till this day. He made the Pro Bowl, and he did it as a rookie. The Cowboys won the NFC East, but ended up losing to the Packers in the playoffs. Dak played a solid game with 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. But it wasn't enough to get the Cowboys into the next round. For the next 2 seasons, Dak continued to refine his game, got his first playoff victory, and made another Pro Bowl. But in 2019, a guy whose job he'd once took stepped in and helped Dak take yet another step as a quarterback. That guy was Kellen Moore, who most of us remember from his days at Boise State. He'd gone from backup quarterback to quarterback coach, and now he'd been promoted to offensive coordinator. Say what you want about Kellen's offense, and maybe you feel he should feed Zeke a bit more. That's pretty much what they screamed constantly at every Cowboys game I've ever been to. But playing in Kellen Moore's offense, Dak actually threw only 32 more passes than he had the season before, okay? But somehow those 32 extra passes accounted for 1,000 more yards and 10 more touchdowns. But regardless, for only the second time in Dak's career, the Cowboys missed the playoffs altogether, which kind of brings us to the current situation. So coming off a year where he had the second most pass yards in the NFL and the only guy to beat him out, had a historically great yet terrible season all at the same time. Of course, I'm talking about my boy 30 for 30 Jameis, 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, also 30 picks. Fun fact, Drew Bledsoe actually had an extremely similar season back in the day. Nobody ever seems to talk about it, but yeah, it happened and he actually made the Pro Bowl that year. Can y'all believe that? I gotta stop bringing that up in videos. This is like the 3rd time. Regardless, Dak had positioned himself almost perfectly to pick up a ridiculous bag from the Cowboys. The problem was he beat maybe one playoff caliber team all season. And when you just look at the schedule, it doesn't take a genius to see the Cowboys were good against bad teams and not so good against good teams. And in a late season game versus division rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles, Dak Prescott could not lead the Cowboys to a victory in that game. And had that happened, had he won that game, I think Dak signs that long-term contract this offseason instead of us going through this whole weird debacle that leads us to our current situation. But his high-powered offense only put up 9 points in that game, and Dak didn't score a single touchdown. This led to an extremely tough offseason for Dak Prescott. 2020 has sucked for the majority of us. It's a global pandemic. In April, when the pandemic was in full swing, he got hit with, just another crushing blow when his older brother, Jace, actually took his own life. What we was talking about earlier, when Dak left school to take care of his mom, Jace was finishing school. So they ended up swapping roles so that Dak can go back and, have that same opportunity to finish school and finish his football season. But as it turned out, Jace ended up being there for the worst of Miss Peggy's battle with cancer. Jace was there when she passed. Dak and his other brother, Tad, really feel this took a heavy toll on Jace. But according to Dak, Jace never really wanted to open up about what he experienced there. He didn't want to come across as if he was complaining or put that burden on his brothers. The way Dak sees it, at least, is Jace kind of felt, that was his burden to carry, and he thinks that that's something that contributed to him ultimately deciding to take his own life. It's an incredibly sad story, and I just gotta say this for all the men out there, because every good man I know has this attitude to an extent. Now, it's different levels. We don't want to burden other people with our problems. We don't want to complain. We were taught to just deal with it, just take it, and just muscle through anything. And yeah, that's not always how it works, man. It's not healthy. Okay, I actually extremely recently had somebody really close to me dealing with some issues that they really didn't want to open up about because they didn't want to burden the people around them. But it's just like, yo, the people closest to you, they care about you, man. They love you. And you need to communicate with them when you're having some issues, okay? Now, if you're on the other side of this and you got somebody that's trying to communicate to you that they having some problems and you one of those that say they being soft or you always making a joke or whatever like that, you the fucking problem. And you really need to check yourself and grow up because all that macho crap, like, that's out the window, bruh. We beyond that. Following that experience, Dak admitted to dealing with depression after his brother's passing. And again, at this point, he's lost his mom and his big bro, two of the closest people to him in his life. He lost one to an incurable disease and the other took his own life. Two extremely tough things to deal with. He's had to endure both while also being a leader of a team and being in the public eye. This is a lot to ask of any man. And I don't even really want to bring up Skip Bayless in this video. I'm not going to go super into detail with the whole Skip Bayless situation. I just want to say that his take on Dak Prescott is probably the dumbest and most irresponsible take I've ever heard from somebody who has a platform like he has. In a nutshell, he basically said he didn't have sympathy for Dak's depression because he's the quarterback of America's team. Literally the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. I've been doing these videos for a long time now, and one of the things that I am constantly like fighting for and trying to do is trying to get people to realize that just because I could run fast, jump high, or throw a damn ball, like I still experience the exact same human emotions that you do. And sometimes they're heightened because I can't go anywhere without somebody having an opinion about me. I can't go online. I can't go to YouTube. Like, somebody got an opinion about every single thing these people do. And then when you start adding these tragedies on top of it, like, come on, bro. You gotta relax with that stuff. But fortunately, Dak's teammates and players all around the league show hella support, and it didn't make him any less of a leader just because he admitted that he had some depression after his brother committed suicide, bro. Like, are you serious? Of course he felt some strong emotion behind that. Like, how could he not? He also had a long, drawn-out saga of back and forth contract negotiations with the Cowboys. It was reported that they offered him a deal worth $33 million per season with $100 million guaranteed, and I was screaming for him to take that, okay? As much as I love and respect Dak, I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think he's very, very good, and I think his traits, like his personality traits, actually raise him up yet another level, and it makes him a legitimate franchise QB, and I don't just pass that around, okay? But Dak and his camp either wanted more guaranteed money, they wanted more years. There was something else there that they wanted that they did not get, and so Dak decided to play under the franchise tag this year. And of course, we've all just found out why that can be extremely dangerous and why a lot of players, they try to get those long-term deals, you know? With that said, Dak started this season out on fire, but the Cowboys have struggled. Because I'm not a Cowboys fan, I haven't watched every single Cowboys game. Looking at it from afar, it's pretty easy to just be like, yo, the offense looks like they're producing, the defense looks like they're not. I'm sure there's a lot more going on there, but from the outside looking in, it definitely looks like Dak has been doing his job. Regardless, his team set at 1-3 going into a game versus the 0-4 Giants. Dak trying to make a late game play was tackled by Giants defender Logan Ryan, and his leg got caught underneath him. And on the same day, Alex Smith took the field for the first time since a somewhat similar injury sidelined him and threatened to end his career. Dak's ankle snapped and completely turned the wrong way in an injury that's just incredibly tough to watch. It's one of those where you knew his season was done the moment it happened, and you just hoped that it was something that he could actually recover from and that it would not derail his career. He actually had a successful surgery last night and now begins a long recovery process. It's a blow that hurts on many levels, I'm sure. He was playing under a franchise tag in hopes that the Cowboys would commit to him long term. He was having his best season as a pro statistically, and now his future is extremely uncertain. The league is cruel. We know this. So while there's a chance he recovers, comes back, maybe plays under the franchise tag again next year, and then get that big payday that he was oh so close to, there's also a chance that he comes back and he's not the same player and the Cowboys decide to go in a different direction. Cam Newton was a franchise quarterback not too long ago. He was an MVP not too long ago. And this offseason, he was struggling just to find a job, and he's now playing for like a veteran minimum contract in New England. So if you feel like this is over dramatic, you're wrong, because the league comes at you hella fast. I called the same thing with Tyrod Taylor when he got taken out by his own medical staff, and it was like, yo, Tyrod's still the starter. I was like, bruh, if Herbert plays good, what's gonna happen? It just happened. You saw it. It just happened. Herbert's the starter for the rest of the season now. Tyrod had his job stolen. And look, Herbert is obviously the better prospect. That's not my point. My point is his job was unfairly taken, and it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter in the NFL or in any business. That's just life. That's how it goes. With that said, man, I know Dak Prescott is a solid individual. I know he's going to keep his mind strong. I know he's going to fight back. I know he's going to come back as strong as he possibly can. And I hope he can get back on his feet, man, and come back and get that bag that he so desperately deserves. And this is hopefully just like the midpoint, the second act, where the big time adversity is presented, and in act 3, when he comes back, he'll take that thing to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that's what happens, bro. But this was what happened to Dak Prescott part 1. My name is FlemLo Raps. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Dak, get better soon, bro. I'm gonna holler at y'all next time, fellas. Peace.